explored the mono miking. Now let's jump up a few years, maybe into the 60s or so here. As technology advanced, track counts, mixers, production techniques developed, and sounds did as well. So we're going to explore a more of a classic 60s type setup popularized by Glyn Johns, engineer who worked with Led Zeppelin and many other great artists.
The most traditional form of this, from what I understand, is it's really a 3-mic setup. It was a mic over the drums that's sort of picking up the whole drum set. There's a mic off to the side near the floor tom. They're both relatively equidistant from the snare drum, and then there's a microphone on the bass drum. In this case, there's also a microphone on the snare drum for extra coverage in case you need it. Traditionally speaking, most of the sound of this comes from 3 microphones. We're going to do this in a little bit more of a hybrid way. So we still have our mono mic, and we've added the Glyn Johns setup with 4 microphones. So we're going to listen to what 4 and 5 microphones sound like on the drums.
For this particular setup, we're kind of moving into late 60s, 70s. So originally on the first pass, I was using this kind of more of a lambskin beater, and now I've gone with a harder sort of something that has a little bit more impact. This is more if you're thinking about, you know, how Led Zeppelin sounds. It's classic drum sound. That drummer, John Bonham hit really, really hard. The tools that he were using were helping him hit hard and have a lot of impact and a lot of attack to the sound. I use a lot of different things to kind of mute the tones and to get stuff kind of dialed in. So the bass drum, I'll usually use a pillow to kind of deaden the sound, get a little bit of the front hat in there. On the snare drum, I'm a big fan of using, gels and tape and all kinds of different stuff to try and control some of the ring, just depending on, what the song really calls for and what the producer is going for sonically. It's funny, this kit is a 66 Ludwig. It was made in Chicago. As the wood from that period gets older, it kind of mellows out a little bit. So the sounds are a little warmer and a little bit darker. But just since we were kind of taking this historical approach, I decided to go with something a little more traditional.
So for this scenario, we are using a FET 47 on the kick drum, very classic bass drum mic throughout the years. And we've traditionally, you probably would be using more of a large diaphragm condenser, like a U67 or 47. For our scenario, we are using some R84 AEA R84 ribbons, which in modern times, going to digital, we find the ribbons lend themselves to a nice smooth high end that normally would have been rolled off using analog tape with large diaphragm mics. You can still use the large diaphragm mics. We do that all the time. But for this case, we're going to use the ribbons that will give us a nice smooth detail in the high end, yet capture the whole kit, mainly between the overheads, peppering in the kick drum. And in this case, we're adding the snare drum, as Eric said, just for a little bit more detail if needed, depending on the performance, what's going to be needed in the final mix. And when we were setting up the sound for this setup, you basically play with the pan of the overhead to where it feels like the snare is represented in the center. That's great. I like that a lot. That sounds great.